Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Christina Guglielmi Bradbury. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist with Whole Health Nutrition Yoga Wellness, as well as Orange Naturals. And I'm really happy to be here this evening. Thank you, Orange Naturals and well.ca, for bringing us all together in this virtual platform. Our whole purpose of being here tonight is to bring everyone together in the space to thank all of you educators and those working within the school system for everything that you do and show appreciation and gratitude for the work that you've put in always, but especially during the past 18 months. We know it's been a roller coaster of adapting to new ways of doing your job and not always getting a lot of time to learn how to do it or direction, yet you continue to do it and work hard and keep our children safe and educated. And we're so grateful for you. So we're coming together in this space because as a Orange Naturals and well.ca, bringing wellness education to the forefront is what we do. So we'd like to offer you this. So thank you so much for your time, and let's get started. So as mentioned, I'm a certified holistic nutritionist. I'm also a certified yoga practitioner and Reiki practitioner. I have 3 young kiddos, John, Keith, and Lucy, and they're actually all in the public school system here in Peel. My spouse is actually a elementary school teacher in the York Region District School Board as well. So we've sort of been going through all of this with you from multiple facets as parenting, teachers, and children. So it makes me even more happy to be here to be able to give this webinar, knowing all of the challenges that have been faced over the past 18 months. Few fun facts about me: love yoga, I love to hike, love to eat, love to cook. And you'll see in the top right corner, I absolutely love giraffes. They always bring a smile to my face. They're very goofy, kind of like me, and they just make me laugh. So on that note, let's actually test out the chat function box, and let's see if you want to give me a quick comment in the chat, just so we know it's working. Feel free to let me know your favorite animal. If you have a pet, something that makes you smile, something that's brought joy to your life this past 18 months. And let's see if this chat function is working. Oh, thank you. Lori from Nova Scotia loves dogs, foxes, and cats. Kelly, your pug. I have 2 little pug nieces and nephews, Gucci and Prada. They're so adorable. Thank you guys. Lots of great comments. Tons of joy. Love giraffes too. Amazing. Thank you so much for your comments. Looks like we're working and good to go. So as you know, every attendee this evening will receive a self-care sample kit. Thank you so much, Orange Naturals, for offering these up to the attendees. This was one of the biggest purposes of doing this, was bringing some natural supplements into your hands to help with any stresses or immune that you're going through right now. So you're gonna be getting 5 formulas. And if you're looking at the formulas and you're not sure what they mean, no worries, because we're gonna be going through these formulas in the middle of the presentation so you know what to expect. Also, everyone will be receiving a coupon code for well.ca, and very exciting, one lucky attendee will be receiving a $100 gift card for their next purchase at well.ca for all of their self-care goodies. So good luck, everyone. You will be receiving a survey within the next 24 hours to fill out to redeem your kits. So let's get started here. Again, this whole webinar is about supporting you, super educators, those working in the school system. A lot of this maybe you've heard before, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into understanding what stress management is and how we can use practical tools to support our stress management. Before we get into that, we really want to understand what stress is. So often we'll say, I feel stressed, but what does that really mean when we're stressed? What's happening within our body physiologically? What are the components that's going on? So let's understand that a little bit more so that we know how to work through it. So we know that stress is our body's way of reacting to things, right? Like change in our environment, demands, emotions, situations, or anything that we're facing that leads to an interruption in our body's internal balance, our homeostasis. And homeostasis is our body's way of always coming back into balance. So stress can present as something short-term, as an acute, or long-term, like a chronic stress. So when we look at common types of stress, we can break it down like this. We can look at psychological stress, which would appear in things like emotions, like fear, anger, anxiety. And I think I can speak for almost everyone here tonight that these emotions have been felt tenfold over the past 18 months. And so that can add a lot of internal physiological stress. But also psychologically, things like a situation that you're in, maybe health concerns that you're going through. A situation that you're in, so those sort of things can add extra psychological stress. Physical stress, this is something that's like an injury, a physical strain on your actual body. It can even be something like pregnancy or labor. Environmental stress, this is the environment around us can really impact our bodies, right? So not just where we are and where we live, but also the air quality that we're breathing or the toxins that we're accumulating through our daily life. So maybe it's something like the home care, the cleaning products that you're using, if they're full of toxic chemicals, or potentially even your skincare regime, your shampoo, your conditioner, your cream. All of these things can add to an environmental toxic load, which puts extreme stress on our body. And then we also have something like a psychospiritual stress. So this is adding more towards, are you feeling connected to your values, to your goals in life, to your ambitions? Are you where you want to be in the world? And sometimes, are you connected spiritually? And if you resonate with spirituality. So sometimes these sort of things can actually add another element of stress into the body. So when we look at all the things that can actually bring stress into our body, it's actually quite a large load. So moving on, what actually happens to our body when we're dealing with stress? Well, we have these amazing important glands called the adrenal glands. And these adrenal glands, they rest right on top of our kidneys, and they're our primary gland for regulating our stress hormones. They regulate and secrete things like cortisol. Not sure if you've heard of it. It's a primary stress hormone, and things like adrenaline and epinephrine, which are our fight or flight response. So when our body perceives stress, our brain perceives one of those stressors that we spoke about. So it could be psychological, physical, psychospiritual, any one of those things. So our brain perceives this stress. And then we have this wonderful gland called the pituitary gland. It's part of a gland system called the endocrine system. You might have heard of something like your thyroid gland, adrenal glands, your reproductive glands, pituitary. They all connect and speak with each other through this system called the endocrine system. So the pituitary gland gets a signal that your body is under stress, and it gets to work. And what it does is it sends this chemical messenger, the adrenal corticotropic hormone, ACTH. This hormone then speaks to the adrenal gland and says, hey, we got to wake up. Something is really stressful. We need to get the body moving, and we need to get out of here or get to work. And so the adrenal gland then releases things like adrenaline and cortisol and epinephrine. And so what this does is it causes a reaction within our body. So specifically when we're looking at epinephrine and adrenaline, this activates something called the fight or flight response. So what it does is it constricts your blood vessels, increases your heart rate, dilates your bronchioles so you can breathe heavier and faster, activates your liver, and allows blood flow in the brain and throughout your muscles. And it secretes a lot of glucose in your blood as well, so you have quick burning fast fuel and energy. The reason why we have this fight or flight response is we can look back to thousands of years ago when we were just humans and cave people, and our biggest concern was staying alive and fighting off elements like storms or saber-toothed tigers. And so when you're under that extreme amount of stress, your body is creating this stress response to save your life. It's actually quite essential, and we need it. But now we're having this sort of stress response when maybe we're driving in traffic or going to work or sitting in the classroom or teaching online. So it's not necessarily, we don't have anywhere to run to or anything to fight. So you've got all of these hormones in your bloodstream kind of pent up, and you're getting this reaction to stress. Then we also see something like cortisol, which is that sort of primary stress hormone. We know that excessive cortisol can actually begin to make so many different changes in our body. It can affect weight gain, can help rapid muscle breakdown. It will cause the digestive system to slow, because when your body is perceiving stress, the last thing that your body's thinking of doing is sitting down and eating a salad or a sandwich. It's like, no, we got work to do. We cannot digest food right now. With that can then come an overgrowth of harmful bacteria. Maybe you've heard of things like candida or SIBO or different sort of bacterial overgrowths in the body that cause everything to be in balance. You can have an altered immune system response. Your insulin and your blood sugar can be in balance, and that down the line could even turn into something like diabetes. So we can see that when our body is under stress, there's quite a few reactions that take place. And if we're under chronic stress, those sort of symptoms and reaction can become long term and cause many other issues in the body. So we definitely want to get it under control. So, what are the symptoms of stress? When we think that we're stressed and we want to be able to target what might be actually causing stress, or if we're actually feeling the stress symptoms, this is a little sort of list of things that you can look out for. And what I found was kind of interesting was this one statistic that showed 75 to 90% of all doctor office visits are for stress related ailments and complaints, and not necessarily knowing that they're stress related complaints. Things like anxiety and panic attacks. And there's quite a bit of that right now. Fatigue and insomnia, weight gain, especially around the midsection. And that's kind of interesting because when you look at adrenal health or overworked adrenals, or what we might call adrenal burnout and fatigue, that's when we're having excessive cortisol. And what can happen is you have massive sugar cravings, massive salt cravings, because we know that sugar is a quick burning fuel. So if our body is exhausted, it's the first thing that we're going to go and run to. And salt is another one because our adrenals actually really need sodium to function optimally. So once you're consuming lots of sugars and salts, that's going to convert into fat, you're going to gain weight. But from the midsection perspective, that's actually our body's innate way of protecting our digestive organs. So we have, ribs to protect our lungs and a skull to protect our brain, but we don't really have anything to protect these vital digestive organs. So our body kicks in and actually starts to sort of create this layer of fat around, like this almost tire of fat around our midsection, as a way of protecting organs because we're chronically under stress. Dizziness is another symptom, aches and pain and inflammation. So you'll find that a body that's under chronic stress will actually begin to have really high inflammatory markers. And so that's where you might notice when you're under stress, you're getting more aches and pain. Low libido, that's a very common symptom of high stress. Chest pain and palpitations, diarrhea and constipation or digestive disturbances. And we did kind of speak about that earlier, and the fact that stress will directly affect our digestive system. And we actually know that there's a very strong correlation from our brain and mental health to our digestive system. Those two sort of areas of our body speak together very closely. Hair loss or thinning. I mean, I've heard this so much over the past year. It's become quite a concern for a lot of people. Their hair is falling out or thinning. And I mean, this can be many different things. Stress can certainly be a factor. And again, we spoke about this endocrine system, right? The series of glands that are sort of connected and work with each other. So a thyroid that's not working functionally can actually cause thinning hair as well. So they're kind of interrelated. And if your adrenals are not working optimally, it could affect other glands. But also for the fact that if your digestive is slowing, you might not necessarily be absorbing a lot of nutrients. And then that alone can cause thinning and hair loss. So something I've certainly heard a lot of over the past year. Poor memory and irritability. And this can also come with lack of sleep, low immune function. So this is a really big one. So stress will actually lower your body's ability to make effective white blood cells. And white blood cells are these cells in our body that are going to fight infection, kill pathogens, bacteria. If we need a good immune system, we need good functioning white blood cells. So we're going to talk today about sort of the interrelation between stress and how it affects our immune, and kind of blend them together, because really they do connect really strongly. And right now, we all want our immune systems functioning optimally, so we have to get our stress in check. And then I just put something called burnout at the end. And so eventually, when we're looking at chronic long-term stress, your body can get to a point where maybe it's not necessarily secreting so much cortisol and so much epinephrine and adrenaline. You might get to the point where you actually can't secrete enough cortisol. And then you can get to the point where you sleep and you don't even wake up feeling rested. You're exhausted all day long. By 4 o'clock, you just want to crash. But then maybe by 9 o'clock, you're feeling like you're wide awake. And so you become in this like roller coaster of energy burnout throughout the day. And that's because of chronic long term stress. So if you're feeling like exhausted all the time, that could be a note that your body just isn't secreting stress hormones optimally anymore. Not just too much, but maybe not enough. So, how do we support our bodies when dealing with stress? So, tonight we're going to talk about a wholesome, nutritious diet and what that looks like, help from supplements, and self care slash positive lifestyle habits. I'm going to take a sip of tea from my giraffe mug real quick and we'll get into it. So, stress busting meal tips. Digestion is key, right? We want to be able to absorb as many nutrients from our food as possible. And food is our number one here in keeping our body healthy and strong. So this might seem a little elementary, but rest and digest. We need to take time to chew our food. Our mouth is the first, actually, our nose is almost the first layer of digestion because when we smell food, we then begin to secrete all these enzymes in our saliva. So, like when you smell your plate of food and you say, my mouth is watering, that's your body getting to work. That's your salivary glands and digestive enzymes saying, okay, we're ready to break down this food so we can absorb it better. So the digestive enzymes are going to help to break it down and to really get the absorption of those nutrients even higher. And then when you actually take the time to chew your food and break it down even more, you're allowing the stomach digestion to be even better, even more optimal. Think about how much easier it is for your stomach to break down pre-digested food as opposed to a giant chunk of food that you had to wolf down and it's sitting in your stomach causing gas and bloating and belching and potentially loose stools down the road. So step one, rest and digest. When we're not resting and eating anyways, we've talked about this, when our body is under stress, those hormones will actually stop digestive enzymes. We don't have an optimal digestion. So we really need to be calm and relaxed. And I know that a lot of us are probably eating on the go, or maybe your lunch break doesn't really look the same that it used to. You might not have time or like a quiet place to sit and eat in your school or wherever you're working, but it's important to try to find that space and time where you can try to have that moment to properly eat your food, because that food, essentially, those nutrients become you and how you're feeling. If you feel like your digestive system is off, I always like to recommend trying a digestive pick-me-up about 20 minutes before your meal. So something like a digestive bitter. So digestive bitters are actually just bitter herbs that are put into a solution that help activate your digestive enzymes. They also help to activate your liver enzymes and things in your colon. They're actually very nurturing herbs, and they even reduce inflammation in your body. They don't taste very good. I mean, they're bitter, so the name kind of explains it all. So don't expect something tasty or get mad at me if you try this and it tastes awful, because they're very bitter. But they'll work to sort of help that process along if you need a helping hand. Another thing I absolutely love is apple cider vinegar. If you don't have it in your cupboard, I certainly recommend getting a bottle. Get a bottle with something called the mother on the bottom. It's kind of this like ooey gooey stuff on the bottom of the bottle, and you might think it looks weird, but that's actually where all the good stuff in the apple cider vinegar lives. So you give it a quick shake and you mix it with some warm water about 20 minutes before you eat. Not a lot, just, a little quarter cup of warm water, and that will work as sort of increasing your digestive enzymes. And when all else fails, warm water and lemon will also help with that as well. Your next stress busting tip is to start your day off strong. So breakfast is absolutely key. If you're not eating breakfast or you're not eating high protein for breakfast and you're someone who has a lot of stress, this is something we need to look into and we need to change, because starting your blood sugar tone for the day off right with a high protein breakfast can actually reduce your stress throughout the day. When your blood sugar is all over the place, your stress result and stress response just goes through the roof. So starting your day off with either a protein smoothie, or if you're like carbohydrates or you like a toast, something like a nut butter, an avocado or egg or something to add to that protein. We're going to get a little bit more into food sources. I definitely recommend having that so that you're not feeling off the rest of the day. And then obviously snacks and your key meals. And then wholesome foods with high nutrient content, which we're going to get into right now. So it's a big list and you might be using a lot of it at home already, but To kind of talk a little bit more about proteins, you'll see at the beginning of the list lean meats and fish, right? And whole eggs, raw nuts and seeds, legumes. These are good sources of protein and fat. So, aside from the fact that protein is so important because it helps our blood sugar to stabilize, protein has a large role in our body and our mental health and our nervous system. So, every cell in our body has protein in it. We need protein in order to feel good. It helps to strengthen our body, to regenerate, to repair. It tones our muscles. So if you're feeling like you have muscles that are not as strong or toned as they used to be, protein is something you definitely want to incorporate in your diet. But other than that, protein is made up of what we call amino acids. They're the building blocks of protein. And amino acids, from a stress perspective, they are responsible for creating neurotransmitters. So, neurotransmitters are things like the dopamine, serotonin, melatonin. So, these are hormones and things that you might have heard of. They actually help support our mood. They're happiness hormones. Melatonin is a hormone that helps to support our sleep awake cycles. So, if you're not sleeping, if your blood sugar is feeling wonky, if you're feeling irritable and anxious, adding extra protein to your diet can be a really quick fix and very nourishing. Raw nuts and seeds, I say raw because if you're eating a lot of roasted and salted nuts and seeds, you're missing the point. You're not getting, I know they're tasty and really fun to snack on, but you're not getting the nutrient component and the healthy fats that are in raw nuts and seeds, and sort of the reason why we want to consume nuts and seeds. Pumpkin seeds right now are amazing because they're very high in zinc, which is great for your immune system. Almonds are an excellent source. So obviously at school, because of nut concerns, maybe you can't bring them, but definitely having a little seed mix would be a great idea. Superfoods like chia, hemp, and flax. So if you don't have a bag of chia, hemp, and flax at your house, I highly recommend getting those and keeping them in your fridge, because literally at my house, we put this on top of everything. If they are very high in protein, very high in omega 3s, and high in fiber. So if you want to take a regular old plate of pasta and add a little zing to it, I just add tablespoons of hemp onto it. Chia, I put in my yogurt. Flax, you can put on salads. It just takes the nutrient content to the next level if you don't have time to be this like learn every new recipe for your health. So it's little hacks like this that might get your nutrient content even higher. Leafy green vegetables, very important for our mental health. They're very high in nutrients, calcium, magnesium, vitamin K, things that are going to calm the body, but also help us to detox our body and blood. And again, we talked about sort of environmental toxic overload and how that can affect stress in our body, or a way of coping with stress. So adding in nice detoxification vegetables like green leafy vegetables, or cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower, that's another great way to go. Low glycemic fruits. So when we say glycemic is, there's an index called the glycemic index, which is the way that we measure how quickly fruit will spike your blood sugar. So certain fruits will spike your blood sugar a lot quicker. Maybe they don't have the fiber content that other fruits do. Those fruits are not necessarily great to consume, especially if you're in a state where you're already feeling anxious or stressed. So low glycemic fruits like apples, berries, pears, plums, melons, peaches, they have more fiber content. They're lower in the glycemic scale, so they're going to nurture your blood sugar a little bit better. And berries like blueberries, blackberries, cherries, raspberries, strawberries, these are amazing to snack on. They're full of immune boosting antioxidants. They're full of fiber. They're great for your brain and stress. So having berries to snack on, and one of the things I like to eat on a snack is berries with pumpkin seeds sprinkled, so I get a little crunch while I eat them. That's a nice thing to have in your snack. Whole grains like quinoa and oats. Carbohydrates are not your enemy. Don't be afraid of them. Carbohydrates, especially complex carbohydrates, have a ton of nourishing effects for our brain. They're very good if we need like something like a cup of oats. Like a good quality oats can be extremely nourishing for our brains, can help our sleep patterns, can definitely help with stress. So if you like your carbs, go ahead and have things like quinoa, oats, buckwheat is one of my favorite ones, things like that, because they really can be quite nourishing to the body and offer a ton of nutrient benefit. Plain yogurt, kefir, fermented foods for digestive support. So I say plain yogurt because You don't want to be fooled by some of the yogurt companies out there when they're like promoting their yogurt as having a billion bacteria that it's good for the gut. Those are also the same yogurts that have very high sugar. And maybe that probiotic isn't the kind of probiotic that you need for recolonization of healthy bacteria. So, plain yogurt, preferably organic if that's possible, and kefir, fermented foods, these are all foods that are going to help encourage positive healthy bacteria in your digestive tract. And we know that our immune system, a high percentage of our immune system is functioning in our gut. So if we're under stress and our gut's already like crying for help, we want to be able to support it with foods that are going to be nourishing. So definitely things like the plain yogurt, kefir, and fermented foods. But when I say fermented foods, we're talking things like miso, sauerkraut, kimchi. They offer prebiotics for our digestive system to feed healthy bacteria. Healthy fats like omegas, olive oil, avocados, and coconut oils. When we're talking brain health, healthy fats are a must. Our brain has a very high fat content. We need fat for our mood. We need fat for focus, our mental health. So definitely, if you're afraid of things like fats, again, we want to feel good and nourish our body. So I would definitely recommend incorporating things like that. A lot of people make bulletproof coffee or teas where they're adding things like MCT or coconut oil right to that. That's a great way if you're a coffee drinker, and we'll talk about coffee a little bit later, but if you're a coffee drinker and you want to feel like you're sort of taking your coffee up a notch, add a little bit of coconut oil to it just to kind of give your brain some nice healthy fat. Nutritional yeast. If you've never used it, I think this is an amazing thing to bring into your pantry. Nutritional yeast is just like a yellow flaky powder, and it tastes like cheese. A lot of vegans use it for like a cheese flavor, but nutritional yeast is very high in B vitamins. And we're going to learn a little bit later how absolutely essential B vitamins are for stress in our body. But if you want to sprinkle, you can literally sprinkle it on anything. If I make macaroni and cheese in my house, this is sort of the majority of the cheese component, and just sort of take the dish up a level. Sea salt and Himalayan salt, if you're still using white iodized salt, stop it. Go with something like sea salt and Himalayan. It's so much more nourishing. There's a ton of nutrients in these salts. They taste amazing, and they're really quite beneficial for our health. Whereas white iodized table salt doesn't really give us any nutritional benefit except giving you that sodium. Tea and green tea, matcha, chaga tea. So if you are looking for substitutions other than having coffee, definitely look into starting to add in green tea or matcha tea or chaga tea. Specifically, when we talk about green tea and matcha tea, it's actually very high in what we call L-theanine. And we're going to talk a little bit more about L-theanine later, but L-theanine is an amino acid. It's kind of known as the Zen amino acid. It's very calming. So although you're getting a green tea, which is loaded with antioxidants to support your brain and your organs and your digestive system, and you're getting a bit of caffeine, you're also getting L-theanine, which kind of counteracts that jitteriness that you would be getting with caffeine. Chaga is another tea that's just very nourishing to your adrenal glands, and just to help sort of calm and regenerate them. And then looking at adding extra herbs into your diet, like garlic, ginger, turmeric, maca. Specifically, when we talk about garlic, ginger, and turmeric, they're going to help with your immune system as well. They're anti-inflammatory. They're good for our brains, our blood. And then when you talk about maca, garlic, ginger, and turmeric you can cook with. You can add this into your diet. You can drink it as a tea even. Maca is something a little different. It's absolutely one of my favorite herbs, and I've always been a lover of it. It's originally from Peru. It's kind of like the Peruvian ginseng, and you can buy it in a powder or a liquid or a caps. I like it in a powder, and I actually add it to coffee and tea, or I bake with it, or to my smoothie. It's got kind of like a very rooty, smoky flavor, but it's extremely nourishing for hormones and your adrenal glands. And our hormones, if our adrenals are out of whack, most likely our hormones will eventually come out of balance because, as we mentioned, this endocrine system where all these glands are connected. So if you're concerned that your hormones might not be optimal, maca is definitely something I would recommend adding in. And then dark chocolate. So We can have a little bit of fun here. Have some dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is great for you. It's full of antioxidants. Yes, there's a little bit of sugar, but if you're buying good quality dark chocolate, there's a couple brands out there. Giddy Yo-Yo is one of my favorites. I absolutely love it. But good quality dark chocolate in 1 to 2 ounces can actually help curb other cravings for sugar, can give you alertness and focus. So maybe at 3 o'clock, if you're crashing and you're going to reach for a coffee or like a sugary treat, um, reach for some dark chocolate, 1 or 2 ounces. And hard to stop sometimes at 2 ounces. Trust me, I know, because I'm a chocolate fanatic. But if you can eventually get there, dark chocolate can have a lot of really great benefits. It's also full of magnesium and minerals, which are very, very relaxing to the body. So foods to limit and avoid. So before I start talking about this, because the last thing I want to do is take coffee away from a bunch of like overworked individuals who have been just busting their butts over the past 18 months. If you need to have your coffee, that's fine. Drink your coffee, but be aware that coffee overload can actually remove a lot of nutrients from our body. So it can be very dehydrating to our system and strip us of things like B vitamins and magnesium and other minerals that we need. So if you're a coffee drinker, here's a couple tips. The first one is slowly start to see if you're drinking more than one coffee, see if you can start to wean to things like green tea, matcha, chaga, right? Things that are a little more nourishing, but also give your body a little pick me up. Try something like substituting half decaf, half regular coffee. So that might be a good way to just start winding down from the caffeine. There's a coffee company called Kicking Horse. I believe they're out of BC and they make organic coffee. And they have an awesome bean called the Half Ass. And what it is it's half decaf and half regular. And there's a little donkey on it. You can get it at your local store. And it was my way. I gave up coffee in October and I was really unpleasant for 2 weeks. But I gave it up for my adrenals. And I really worked down using that sort of half and half and then into matcha. So it takes a bit of time, but that's a little thing. And if you're drinking coffee, try not to have any past 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, because from our adrenals perspective, we really need to be preparing for sleep, a good night's sleep. And caffeine later on in the day can affect that. Alcohol. Again, so I know a lot of us have been enjoying maybe an extra glass of wine or something to relax in the day. Just be mindful of the type of alcohol that you're drinking. It's a lot of extra sugar in your body, which is going to leave you feeling really crappy the next day. And it also, again, will dehydrate you, will strip your body of essential key nutrients, and it is a depressant. So alcohol, caffeine in moderation, and just be mindful of those things. Processed foods, white flours, and bread. So any sort of white bread, white rice, processed chips, any things like that, when you can, stay away from them and substitute for a healthier complex carbohydrate option or whole grain, much better, because these processed white flours and breads are actually going to go straight to sugar in your bloodstream and just cause all kinds of wonky spikes. So definitely incorporating more whole grains. Deep fried foods, there's no nutrient content. They're going to cause more inflammation. If you're going to have a treat once in a while, that's fine. What we're talking about when we're talking about foods to limit and avoid are like our everyday eating. White processed sugar. This from an immune standpoint is scary. Like when you look at sugar consumption, like studies show that white sugar consumption can reduce your white blood cell count by 50% for up to 5 hours. So what that means is your white blood cells, those fighter cells that are fighting off infection and bacteria, they're not working well. And so if you're eating sugar consistently, you're going to have a lower immune response consistently. And so right now, that's certainly not something that we want. High glycemic fruits. So this is the opposite to those low glycemic fruits. These are fruits that are going to spike your blood sugar much quicker. So we definitely want to keep our blood sugar balanced. Stress management and blood sugar balance go hand in hand. And then things like bananas or dried fruit in moderation, especially in the morning. And why is that? Why not too many bananas in the morning? Well, bananas are high in potassium. And so if you remember earlier on in the presentation, we talked about the fact that our adrenals really need sodium, healthy amounts of sodium to work optimally. Sodium and potassium kind of work to balance each other out. So if you're waking up in the morning and your adrenals are already fatigued and burnt out and we're giving it high potassium, that's actually going to make your adrenals feel even worse. So if you're somebody who makes a smoothie or likes bananas in the morning, maybe just cut it into a third or slowly start to break it down and wait to the afternoon more so to have it. Lastly, water. Everyone needs water. We live in a world that's made up of 70% water. Our bodies are made up of over 60% water. Our brain is made up of 73% water. Like our cells are water. We need water to survive and to feel good. Water's role in this whole stress management game is number one, helping to detox again all those chemicals or toxins or coffee or alcohol or any of those things, smoking, helping to detox things from our bloodstream. Water is important to help carry oxygen throughout our bloodstream. And we know that dehydration can cause a whole slew of symptoms. So, confusion, poor memory, irritation, anxiousness. Dehydration is a whole symptomatic issue on its own. So, definitely drink water 1.5 to 2 liters per day, good quality, clean water. If you can avoid using plastic water bottles, you certainly want to use a reusable water bottle or have one of those big water bottle jugs with you at school to kind of sip throughout the day when possible. Okay, so we're going to move into supplementing for extra support. So when we look at supplements, we're looking at, for the purposes of this conversation, B complex vitamins, magnesium, L-theanine, fish oil, vitamin C, and adaptogenic herbs. So let's start here with B vitamins. So B vitamins are responsible for many different functions in the body. And they're really important for our nervous system. Our nervous system definitely relies on healthy amounts of Bs working in our system. But what do they really do? So when we take B vitamins or have them in our body, we don't make B vitamins. We need to get them from food and external sources. B vitamins work together as a family. Usually you'll find them in a complex of about 8 different Bs, and they help to convert our food into fuel. And that helps to give us energy. It helps in relaxation. They're antioxidants for the body. They help in concentration and memory loss and prevent early aging. So many different functions in the body. So we certainly need them to maintain the health of our nervous system. We know that things like alcohol, certain medications, if you were ever on the birth control pill or certain medications, they will deplete B vitamins. Coffee, poor diet, stress. Stress just zaps your B vitamins because you're using so many of them. So if you feel like you're getting enough B sources through food, protein sources are really great sources of B vitamins. That's great. But if you're feeling like you need that extra support, a B complex might be the thing that you need. What I love about the B complex that you see on your screen is that this B complex is actually mixed with something called L-theanine. And L-theanine is that amino acid that was naturally derived in green tea. So what's nice about this formula is you can take it, use the B vitamins for all the internal work that needs to be going on in your system, but then also feel immediate calm from the L-theanine. L-theanine kicks in about 40 minutes after you take it. I took a bunch of L-theanine before this presentation, and so it kicks in about 40 minutes, and it just helps to relax anxiousness and nervousness and sort of chit chat in the brain. And so having that sort of immediate reaction with the L-theanine is really nice, especially if you're feeling a little bit anxious. Another great thing about this particular B complex is it uses many things called activated Bs. So every supplement is not created equal. When you're on the shelf and you're looking at a supplement and you're seeing a B complex that's $5, $10, $20, $30, normally there's a reason for that. You want to get B vitamins in an activated form. What that means is they're already active when you take them. They don't need to be converted by the liver. The liver has some work to do when you take supplements, unless you're buying certain forms of supplements. The ones that are used in this one, most of them are activated, which are going to be very highly and easily absorbed. And as you know, we talked about this earlier in the presentation. When our body's under stress, our digestive system is not always working optimally. So it's even more important to buy good quality supplements so that your body doesn't need to do a lot of work to break them down and get them in the bloodstream. This is a product I've been using on and off for over 15 years. I've certainly been using it on for during the pandemic, and something that I definitely love to have as part of my sleep or my stress kit. So magnesium. So you've probably all heard of magnesium. It's a very important mineral. Again, we don't make magnesium. We have to get it from external sources. And that's very important because magnesium is actually used for over 600 different enzymatic functions in the human body. It helps to decrease and regulate our stress-induced hormones. It's an amazing supplement, or if you can get high amounts through food, to help reduce anxiety. It helps promote relaxation, improved sleep patterns. If you're having muscle pain or fatigue or cramping, magnesium is an amazing mineral to support with that. One of the things that will often come when you're feeling stress, or if you've ever found, if you are some like a coffee drinker, if you had a drink or you had a stressful day, maybe you start getting a twitch. It could be an eye twitch, it could be a cheek twitch, it could be a leg twitch. That's usually a pretty good sign that your magnesium level is not optimal. We actually know that 43% of Canadians are suspected to not be getting enough magnesium through diet alone. When you look at magnesium deficiencies, it's quite a high amount that that people are deficient in magnesium. It's very easy to sort of lose this mineral. Coffee, alcohol, stress, medications, all of those things will deplete magnesium. Now, if we can get it through food, why don't we just eat our magnesium through food, right? If it's in green leafy vegetables and whole grains, let's just eat more of those. The concern is agricultural practices over the past, few decades have really stripped magnesium from our soil. The amount of magnesium that's in our soil today compared to the magnesium that was in our soil 25 years ago or 50 years ago is much more depleted. So even if we're eating organic, we're not likely to be getting the same amount of magnesium that our body would have been getting before. You'll just have to consume more. So magnesium supplements are sort of an easy way to get around that, especially if you're feeling like a lot of heart palpitations or anxiousness in the chest. Magnesium is really great for the heart as well and sort of controlling those sort of things. Obviously, if there's another issue, you want to speak with your healthcare provider about that. But from a general perspective, it's a very safe mineral and supplement to take. This one that you see on your screen here is called magnesium glycinate, and it's a 200 milligram capsule. So magnesium, there's so many magnesiums on the market, and they're all different. So there are different forms of magnesium. You might have heard of something called magnesium citrate, magnesium oxide, magnesium malate. There are so many different forms, and each of one of them, although they will work similarly in the body, they each have their own sort of main sort of key thing that they do. Citrate is really great if you're feeling constipated and if you can't go to the washroom, because citrate is known to not be as absorbable and sort of flush out the intestines. That might not be a good thing if you have to go teach a class. So glycinate is actually a really gentle form and something that can help promote healthy sleep patterns, muscle relaxation. It takes a bit of a different pathway of absorption in the body, so it doesn't cause that sort of loose stool or digestive disturbance. So I really like this form of magnesium. It's bound to something called a glycine amino acid, and that's why it's called magnesium glycinate. So that's called a chelated mineral. And generally speaking, when you have chelated minerals, they're just easier to absorb and much more gentler on the stomach. To the left, you'll see this cool little product with the sleepy cat called magnesium plus GABA and melatonin. That's a nice option if you're really struggling with sleep right now, because what they've done is they've added magnesium with the neurotransmitter GABA, which really helps to calm anxiousness in the mind. So if you find that you're going to bed and you can't fall asleep and your mind is just so anxious, first of all, get out of bed. Don't ever lay in bed feeling that way. It's recommended that you get out for 10 to 15 minutes, walk around, have a drink of water, use the washroom, reset, and then go back in. But if you are still having issues with sort of that chatter and anxiousness, GABA is a really nice option to support sleep. And then you'll see melatonin. And melatonin is one of those hormones that we were talking about that helps to regulate your sleep and wake cycles. So, for whatever reason you're finding that you can't fall asleep, stay asleep, or you're waking up in the middle of the night, the magnesium sleep might be a nice option to try if sleep is sort of your concern. Adrenal supporting herbs. So there are many, many different adrenal supporting herbs. I'm just going to talk about a few of my favorites. Ashwagandha, for one. And when we talk about adrenal supporting herbs, why do we call that? What is it about them that actually supports? They're called adaptogenic herbs. So adaptogenic herbs are herbs that actually help our adrenal glands come back into balance. Again, earlier on, we're talking about that homeostasis. We're trying to work towards finding balance in our body. So some of us may be at the beginning stages of overactive adrenal glands and pumping out a ton of cortisol and a ton of epinephrine and adrenaline. And then some of us might be at the point where we're at burnout. We're not secreting much cortisol. We're waking up in the morning when our cortisol should be at the highest, and it's actually quite low. So you're waking up sluggish and exhausted. Ashwagandha is a herb that helps you find the balance, regardless of where you are. It's not going to be overstimulating. It's not going to make you crash. It's like, how do we get this body and these adrenal glands healthy and back into balance? So it's why I love this herb. It's used quite a bit in India. It helps with focus, blood sugar regulation, hormone balance, and it's actually a great herb if you're also experiencing low libido. Rhodiola is another one of these adaptogenic herbs. It helps the body balance and energize, but it also promotes strength, stamina, and mental capacity. So if you're finding that you really want that focus or that sharpness back, rhodiola is a nice herb to sort of energize the mind and body, but again, while coming into balance. And astragalus is another wonderful herb, not only because it is an adaptogenic herb and helps those adrenal glands work optimally, but also because it's a really great immune boosting herb and does help your body fight against stress, but also helps your white blood cells and your body stay strong with an immune perspective. So, where can you find these herbs? You can find them on their own, or you can find them in a nice little formula here from Orange Naturals. So there's two formulas here. They're very different. They're sort of the yin to the yang, but I'll explain them both. This one here on the left with the cool kangaroo is called Bounce Back. And I love this product for if you're feeling exhausted, if you're feeling like you need a little bit of energy, you're sluggish through your day, maybe you're somebody who exercises a lot and really puts your body under a lot of physical stress, right? Maybe not may not feel like a harsh stress, but your body's still going through a physical stress and you want to keep your adrenal glands functioning optimally so you can continue that way. Bounce Back is that formula to sort of re-energize the adrenals. And I find it interesting because before I saw the label to this, I can speak from experience where I personally had that adrenal crash, right? Like burnt out so hard that I wasn't secreting the cortisol. And I always try to visualize that spark kind of coming alive back into my adrenal glands. And so I love that they have this kangaroo holding the lightning bolt because it's so indicative of what they're trying to do is bring that spark back into your adrenal glands and bring it back to life and just sort of balance it out. On the opposite side of that is peace of mind. And so peace of mind is for that person who's like really high cortisol, really high adrenaline, epinephrine, and just like very anxious and wound up. And so peace of mind has a mixture of ashwagandha, which we talked about, and L-theanine. And so ashwagandha and L-theanine, they're both very calming. You have that adaptogenic ashwagandha, and then you have the L-theanine to calm the mind. Ashwagandha can take, a few weeks to build up in the system. So you're going to get that slow and steady buildup of the adrenals while you get the immediate calm. Sometimes you're going to use both. Bounce Back has things like tyrosine, B5, Schizandra, Siberian ginseng, B6. Those are energizing, nourishing herbs for the thyroid and the adrenals. So if you're feeling like you want to support your adrenals and just your health and kind of regenerate and build, but you're also having days where you're like really anxious and you want to have something like peace of mind at your desk or in your drawer or in your car, they can certainly both be taken because we can have days where we have both of those feelings. Next, we have omega-3s. So we talked in the food portion of this about the benefits of healthy fats. Our brain needs healthy fats. They will help our mood. They will help our concentration. You know, from an early age, healthy fats are so important for the development of our mind, our brain, and our nervous system. They're also quite important for our heart, and they do help with inflammation. So if your body's under a lot of stress and you're feeling quite a bit of inflammation and pain, omega-3s can help with that inflammatory response as well. So I always like to put omega-3s inside of a stress protocol because we just want to help nurture, protect, and strengthen our cells, decrease inflammation, and help our mood. Um, you'll see there's three kinds here. EPA and DHA. Those are sort of your main components. EPA is really known for that inflammatory response, and DHA is sort of known for that mood and brain. If you're like, I kind of need everything, the one on the left has the omega 3 in balance, where you have equal amounts of EPA and DHA. That's one I really like. If you're someone who feels like you can't stomach fish oil and fish oil doesn't taste great, there's a couple things you can do. First off, this one is a goji citrus and it tastes really, really good. My kids take it by the spoonful and actually say that it tastes like gummy bears. So if that might help, but you can always hide it in a smoothie or, you know, just take it by the spoon and have a drink of water or something, or a, you know, a little sip of juice or something to swig it back afterwards for the flavor. But I find this to be incredibly palatable and has a nice flavor. Lastly, when we're looking at extra immune support, and we did talk about how stress can deplete our immune function, and the two go hand in hand, I do want to leave you from a supplemental perspective with these products here. Vitamin D. So, you've probably heard a lot about vitamin D this year. You are educators, you're around people all the time. Vitamin D is essential for our immune system. We know that low levels of vitamin D have been associated with higher instances of respiratory infections. We do want to watch our vitamin D levels. You can always go and get them checked with your healthcare provider to see what the level is at. But Canada recommended dosages is about 2,000, 2,500 IUs. So you can just take that as a maintenance. Why is it important to take it? We live in Canada. We don't get sunshine all year round. So when we're at September to May and we're not getting that synthesis of vitamin D that we would normally get from our skin and sunlight, it's really important that we get vitamin D to nurture our immune system. But also from a mood perspective, maybe you've heard of seasonal affective disorder, SAD. So seasonal affective disorder typically comes to light from the months of January, February, when we're really not getting a lot of interaction with the sun and synthesis of vitamin D. This can lower the mood, it can cause lethargy, it can cause fatigue. And so vitamin D has been shown to really support with seasonal affective disorder. So I recommend, if you're hesitant, get your levels checked or hop on a vitamin D. Zinc and vitamin C. So zinc, from a perspective of immunity, is quite important. So we actually utilize zinc in every cell of our body. Zinc is used in things like inflammatory responses, mood, immune, but we don't make zinc. We have to get zinc from sources. And so supplementing with something like zinc, if you're concerned about your immune system or you want to boost your immune system at this time, would be a good idea. Vitamin C. Vitamin C is sort of, everyone's been talking about vitamin C for years. We all know the benefits of vitamin C. But from a perspective of the immune, vitamin C is very powerful antioxidant. It will support our white blood cells. It does support a strong immune system. But we need to have vitamin C quite frequently in our system. So if you're already taking vitamin C and you're like, yeah, I take 1,000 milligrams every morning, that's great, but that might be very, very low. So you can actually work to find your vitamin C threshold, and also know that vitamin C actually filters through the body every 4 hours. So if you're only taking it once a day and you find that you're still not where you want to be with your immune system, maybe you need to be looking at taking vitamin C 2 or 3 times a day throughout the day. But also from a stress standpoint, we spoke a lot about these mighty adrenal glands tonight. And when you think of vitamin C, there's actually a very high content of vitamin C found within our adrenal glands. So, on top of the immune system working overload, we also have the adrenals that are pulling vitamin C. So, it's a really important vitamin to get into our diet. Everyday probiotics. Again, we spoke about the importance of our gut health and what that means from a stress perspective or an immune perspective. So this is just a probiotic. If you're feeling like you're out of whack digestively and you're bloating or constipated, or you want to give your digestive system a little bit of extra love, a probiotic is something that you can add in. And then finally, oil of oregano. This is just something that's always in my pantry. Oil of oregano is a powerful antifungal, antimicrobial oil. It can help to fight off infection, bacteria. You can use it topically on, if there's some sort of fungus or concern on your skin that you're worried about, acne, from the masks. You can dilute it in something and just kind of use it as a spot treatment. It might burn if you use it pure, so you have to make sure you dilute it. But also from a respiratory concern, oil of oregano has been shown to help decrease respiratory illness of the upper respiratory tract. So it might be something that if you're feeling a little cough or sniffle or sore throat, a few drops of oil of oregano multiple times a day can nip that in the bud really quick. So those are your supplements, lots of really cool stuff to sort of take you to that next level if you need support. So what about self-care? So this is ultra important. And we know that getting enough sleep is almost one of the singular most important things you can do to support your stress and your immune. So when we say getting enough sleep, we're talking about 6 to 8 hours a night minimum. Sleep is where we rest, regenerate. Our immune system does a ton of building while we're sleeping. We need it for our mental health. Easier said than done, right, Christina? Like, yes, I want to sleep more, but maybe you can't for some reason. Maybe it's a stress thing and you can't fall asleep. And we talked about a few things to support that. Maybe if you're drinking coffee, stop drinking coffee by 2 o'clock. If you don't have blackout curtains, add some blackout curtains in your room. Don't be on your phone in the hours of the evening. The blue light exposure from our phones and computers can really throw off our hormones and circadian rhythms. If you have a TV in your room, maybe it's time to take the TV out of your room. Have some plants in your room to help support oxygen and help you breathe better. Nice, fresh, clean sheets. Like, there are little things that we can do to maybe promote a good night's sleep. So hopefully those little tidbits help out. Exercise for your body type. We know that exercise can help increase our mood and reduce stress by releasing endorphins. However, if you're feeling burnt out, if you're at the stage where your adrenal glands are like, you're not producing a lot of cortisol, doing a HIIT exercise or running 10K might not be what's right for you. So you really have to be mindful of the type of exercise that you're doing, depending on what area of your stress level or fatigue or adrenal health you're at. Maybe not today you'll be running a 10K, but tomorrow you'll feel, or a month from now you'll be feeling it. Maybe what you need is something slow and restorative, like a meditation or yoga or gentle stretching. Maybe a HIIT workout or a run is exactly what you need, and that's what you need to burn off some of that excessive energy and jitteriness. Just be mindful of exercising for your body type, and one size does not fit all, and what a plan will look like to nurture your body during this time. I'm an advocate for yoga and meditation. There are so many different types. Yoga, meditation, and deep breathing. These are things that will help activate your parasympathetic nervous system to help induce those feel-good hormones like serotonin and dopamine. Specifically, deep breathing. I'll bring this up because it's something you can do while you're at work, while you're in the classroom, in between dealing with kids. Deep breathing, when we're looking at that, it really can just be 2 minutes a day, or only when you're starting to feel very anxious. When we start deep breathing, we actually activate these feel good chemicals in our brain. So how do you do deep breaths? Might seem simple. Just place your left hand on your belly and your right hand on your chest. Allow your lips to be closed and inhale slowly for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 5 to 7 seconds, and then exhale through your nose for about another 5 to 7 seconds if you can. The longer your exhale, the more of that activation of the parasympathetic nervous system you're going to get, and the more calm you're going to feel. And you can do this in your car, obviously with your eyes open, or at home. Just take a couple minutes whenever you can to sort of reconnect and come back to your breath. Limiting exposure to things like TVs and phones. And I say this for the blue light and for the electromagnetic radiation. Again, it can have, effects on our brain chemistry, on our brain hormones, and sort of when our body is sensing sleep awake cycles. And also just for the emotional and psychological stress of it. It can be overwhelming to be connected to a TV and phone all the time, especially now with social media channels. It's just a limitless amount of information coming your way, which can put a psychological stress onto your body. So sometimes just turning off and disconnecting from that. You might hear this all the time, get out into nature, it's good for you. But why? Why is getting out into nature important? So there are so many different studies on being out in nature and what that can do for your mood and stress and body. Aside from the fact that you can put your phone away and be out and actually see greenery and hear the sounds of nature, and you're visually being surrounded by something beautiful. We know that being out in nature can actually be very calming to the body, can help with focus, can actually help with creativity. But also, we know that plants actually emit something called phytoncides, which actually help with killing off fungus and bacteria and help to release extra oxygen. And so, extra oxygen in our bloodstream will help us feel better, feel more awake, not as fatigued. So, getting out into nature, definitely highly recommend, especially if you're someone who likes the water. Water can be very nourishing and relaxing, sitting by a stream, anything like that. Plants in your house or in your classroom. Again, sort of for the same reason as getting out into nature, plants we know emit oxygen. They can really cleanse the air and help to create a sense of calm. And also, caring for a plant can actually psychologically be very nurturing for yourself. Things like aloe vera, spider plants. Um, there's palm plants. There's so many different varieties. Journaling, this is something that I feel really strong about. So it doesn't have to be that you have to take a half an hour every single day, even if it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes every 2 to 3 days, allowing yourself the opportunity to put the pen to paper and release the thoughts and emotions that you're feeling in your brain can actually be very cleansing and nourishing and de-stress. Whether you want to hold on to that journal or rip the page and burn the page and release those feelings, journaling would be something that, getting something that looks pretty, that you feel nice to journal in, can be very, very nourishing. Limiting toxic exposure to things like cigarettes, alcohol, chemical cleaning products, bath products, etc. We did talk a little bit about this when we spoke about environmental stressors. Obviously, the more we can eliminate that and turn to cleaner products, the better that would be for our body. And then lastly, I put something like phone a friend, make a phone call. We're in a very digital world right now where we're constantly texting or emailing. Sometimes having a conversation where you can laugh and cry and be silly, or just have that person's voice over the phone, or better yet, in person, can go a really long way. Finally, I just wanted to add this to the presentation. It's been a really intense year, and I find that there's a lot of days that can be very stressful, and some days are full of love and joy. And so, if you're having those really stressful days, or you're having a day where it's really hard to see where the end is in sight, these are what we call the five principles in Reiki. And this is something that over the past 18 months has been brought back to my life, where if I'm having a day, I just repeat these principles. And I'll repeat them today. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will let go of anger. Just for today, I will live my life with integrity. Just for today, I will give thanks for all my many blessings. And just for today, I will be kind to my neighbor and all living things. So maybe this resonates with you, maybe it doesn't, but this has been something that sort of grounds me when I feel I repeat it to myself almost like a mantra, and it just sort of brings me back present into the moment, and not to sort of be overtaken by sort of not knowing what's going on or happening, or any stressors that might be. So hopefully you like it and hopefully you enjoyed it. That actually brings us to the end of our presentation. So that was a lot of information. I tried to keep it within the hour. I think we actually made it. I'm so, so happy that we were able to come together. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I'm going to stick around and answer a couple questions, but in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Instagram at Christina Whole Health, or Facebook. Also follow Orange Naturals on Instagram and Facebook. They're also always posting the greatest things, and lots of information there. And of course, well.ca. So thank you all so much. We all really appreciate everything that you're doing and for keeping our children safe and for being so selfless and continuing the work that you do. I cannot thank you enough. So if you want to hang around for some questions, great. If not, have yourself a wonderful, restful evening. So I'm going to get into some questions here. I have a little sip of tea first. Okay, let's get started. What is the best probiotic for yogurt, etc.? So I'm not sure if this means which probiotic company or brand is the best probiotic. I think that might be the question. And if it is, and if it's not, please clarify another question. I'm honestly not a fan of probiotic yogurts. Most of the time, they're using a strain that actually might be causing kind of like a laxative effect. So you think you're taking a probiotic and you think that all of a sudden your digestive system is starting to work well, when really it's the probiotic strain having a laxative effect. So the second you stop eating the probiotic, you haven't actually colonized any of that healthy probiotic. So I actually like to, in my house, like I'll open the probiotic capsule and stir it right into my yogurt. So I know I'm getting the real deal. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers your question. Okay. I'm guessing soda is not recommended either. So if we're talking like soda water or soda as in pop, soda as in pop, of course, is full of sugar. So definitely not recommended. Soda water isn't a terrible thing as long as you're not drinking that as your substitute for water. I would certainly say, yeah, soda water is a low sugar option. If you're a pop drinker and you want pop flavors, I'd recommend there's a company called Zevia that you can find. It's no sugar, it's sweetened with healthy alternatives, and you can find like traditional pop flavors like root beer and cream soda, and I like that one quite a bit. How much water to drink when you do water retention, feet and ankles? Okay, so if you're experiencing water retention, then we have to find out why the water retention is happening. So is there a medical condition that's sort of causing the water retention to be there? Is there hormonal something? Is there a mineral imbalance? So it's hard to say. It's not necessarily the amount of water you drink, but it's why the water retention is happening. So I wouldn't, without knowing what's actually happening, I don't want to make a suggestion because I don't want you to feel uncomfortable and retaining even more water. You have to find out what's going on with the mineral retention. But you can always look at adding something like electrolytes to your water to see if that actually helps with the retention. Actually, Orange Naturals has a product called Mag Pop. It's a little packet sachet that you can mix with water. It has vitamin C, electrolytes, and magnesium. That might help the water retention depending on what it is. Again, I'm not knowing your situation. I hope that helps. Are bounce back and peace of mind safe with medication Zoloft? Okay, so anyone who's taking medication, I would certainly say talk to your practitioner because sometimes they might allow something while they're monitoring the medication and the supplement. Usually bounce back, there's a little bit more, there's more to that one. There's more ingredients in there. So with medication, there might be more contraindication. Peace of mind might be okay, but again, I would check with your healthcare practitioner. Um, does zinc need to be taken with another supplement for optimal absorption? No, zinc does not need to be taken with another supplement. Sometimes we talk about how there's a zinc and copper supplement because if you are like overdosing on zinc, your copper mineral can actually be out of whack, but zinc can be taken on its own. Which probiotic brand would you recommend? Orange Naturals actually has a everyday probiotic and has come out with actually a bunch of different. They're coming out with a new type of probiotic, which I believe you're actually getting in your self-care sample kit. So you will be getting a new probiotic. I typically like probiotics that have multiple strains on there, so you're targeting different areas of your digestive tract. All right. So I'm just going to head over to the chat to make sure we're not missing anything from the chat. But it looks like most of our questions are gone. Thank you for sharing all the information. Thank you so much. We talked about the yogurt, very informative. Thank you. Zinc okay to take every day? That's a good question. So yes, you can take zinc every day, but if you feel like if you have no reason to it, one quick trick to see if you're zinc deficiency is actually taking a look at your fingernails. So if you're looking at your fingernails and you're seeing a lot of white zinc spots, that could mean that you're deficient in zinc. So what you can do is you can always get your zinc levels tested. If you have a naturopath or nutritionist, they can do actually like a hair analysis and see how much zinc is actually in your body. Then you know if you want to be taking it every day or take a break from it. So it really depends on the person and their level. Which probiotic brands? Awesome. I think that's it, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining us. Really appreciate your time tonight. And again, thank you for everything you do. Enjoy your self care kits. And we hope you have a wonderful evening.